Oh, yes, we do have a review of a series, and I know we've talked about it before.
We have talked about this show every week, but the season 1 is over of WandaVision.
It is.
And we're going to give it a proper review, our thoughts, how we thought about the show.
Yeah.
So there will be spoilers.
Oh, yes.
Big time.
Big time.
And yeah, well, let's get started. I mean, we've talked about all the episodes so far. Obviously, we haven't talked about the finale.
Yes, that happened last Friday.
And so we're going to just review the whole show as a series.
So I will say, as a series, it had very good potential.
I agree.
And I think it was doing good things. And I don't think this is a bad show by any means. But what I will say is that it fizzled out at the end, the last 2 episodes.
Absolutely. But go ahead.
It sets some things up. It does set some things up with characters like, what's her name? Monica Rambeau is Proton or...
Can't remember, but...
It's a superhero name. Proton, I thought. Or
sure, call it Proton.
Or Phaser Beam. No, I don't know.
Laser eyes.
Anyway, she, you get the reveal of her being a superhero, and she had a great scene where she's like
great actress.
Oh yeah,
great everything. Like
perfect.
I'm all in Spectrum. I'm all in for that character. That's her name, Spectrum.
Spectrum, but there was a P name for her too. She was also known as
Phaser Beam.
It's not. It's like Proton or something.
I don't know, dude.
Protozoa.
Anyway, it doesn't matter.
Pickle Lily. Anyway, yeah. So she's really great. And
Photon, Nolan told us, of course.
Photon. That's what I said. Didn't I say that?
I think so.
Or did I say? I said Proton, not Photon. Anyway, she had a really great scene in that last episode, in episode 9, where Sword comes up and they start shooting at the boys, the 2 little boys of Wanda and Vision, and she basically absorbs the bullets. Like this
is awesome.
They hit her and they go through her, but then they just like drop out the other side.
Speed going through her.
Like she absorbs the speed and the velocity of the bullet, and then they just drop out.
Turning into like some sort of an energy being, they would just pass right through at full speed and still kill the shit out of those fake kids, by the way.
They are fake kids, but not if you can, like change the density of your matter. You know what I mean? Like even lights. Like if you put light in, compressed it.
You can compress light?
Of course you can. Isn't that what the sun is?
No.
Yeah, it is. No. It's like compressed matter that causes light.
It's a fusion reaction, the sun.
And that's what she is, basically.
Okay. Anyway, terrible physics lesson aside.
It's perfect. It's 100% true. Like if you compress light.
Is anybody going to talk about the most important thing about WandaVision? The random background character that happens to be the mom from that 70s show.
Yeah. She's in it
she has
multiple
like
times.
One line. Isn't that
No,
weird?
she's in the second episode.
Oh, is she?
For the dinner party thing with Vision's.
Yeah.
She's Vision's boss's wife.
She looks good.
And she came, and
that
she has
show was on a long time ago. You think she would have aged a lot more?
She hasn't aged really at all.
No,
it doesn't look like she has at all. I bet you Red is.
I think she was aged up for that show.
Probably.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
A proton is a baryon containing 3 quarks. A photon is a boson of electromagnetism. Dirk says, you got to be quick to compress light.
You do.
Yeah.
Like very quick.
You got to be super fast.
Super fast, like a marsupial.
A marsupial?
They're so fast.
Oh, God.
Golly, they're quick.
No, so I kind of felt similar to this show. Like, it started out slow. Obviously, we talked about that at length. It got super exciting towards the middle and really fizzled towards the end for me. I mean, I liked the last episode. I did not like the second to last episode.
No, and
the last episode was fine.
Yeah.
It wasn't anything special. But let's talk about it as an overall, what it means for the genre, what it means for the MCU. I like that this was their first foray into the MCU TV, other than Shield, Agents of Shield, of course.
Yeah.
And a couple other shows, like they did that Immortals one, and then they, whatever. Take those off the table. Disney Plus is like the first real cinematic series, mini-series you got to see. Mm-hmm. And I like the feel of it. I liked the novelty of it. I liked that they tried something different. I loved the cast. I think there's more right than wrong here.
I agree.
I think it was a fun, light, easy series to watch.
But aggravating.
It wasn't aggravating at times as a fan.
Yeah.
But I think as a casual observer, it was probably a fun series to watch.
To be honest, no. Yes, it was fun, but as a casual observer, I don't think it gave you enough to stick around.
Maybe, but
like each
it
episode
gave me enough to appreciate what they did do. And by all accounts, Falcon and the Winter Soldier, which comes out like next week.
Yeah.
It sounds like it's going to be pretty amazing. Like it's getting phenomenal early reviews.
Is it really? Yeah. I haven't looked into it at all.
It looks incredible. So I think there's a strategy here.
Right.
And I think
like a build up.
And I think that if they wanted to do like a little appetizer, set up some things, they did that. And they did it well, I think. Mm-hmm. And they set up Vision's character going forward. Scarlet Witch's
White Vision
character going forward. So there's a lot of interesting
Spectrum going forward.
Yeah, there's a lot of interesting things that can come from this. Like if I'm looking at this, comparing it to something like a Captain Marvel, which kind of had tried to serve the same purpose in the MCU, this did it in a much more entertaining way to me than Captain Marvel did.
It did, but you also have to take in consideration that you're working with probably 5.5 hours worth of content compared to an hour and a half of Captain Marvel. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like to set up the same kind of thing.
Absolutely. Maybe it was just that I think it was enough for me that the acting was so good. And it was enough to me.
Elizabeth Olsen and Paul Bettany.
All of them, though.
My gosh.
The girl that played Monica Rambeau, the girl from Thor. Can't remember her name. Kat Dennings.
Yeah,
right?
Kat Dennings and Catherine Hahn as Agatha.
And the
Harkness.
Jimmy
Woo.
I mean, all across the board. Great stuff. And to me, interesting, good writing that didn't feel cliche in any way.
Yeah. No, I agree.
There were some cliche moments in the last two episodes, but to me, it felt like a very original story and one that, despite whether I liked every episode or not, I wanted to come back to every week.
Absolutely. We had no issue coming back to the show every single week.
Similar to like The Walking Dead. I know, completely different vibe, but you're talking about a show that, like, despite the fact that you get aggravated on an episode-to-episode basis, that they're not advancing story in the way that you want them to, you still want to come back.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say, is that regardless of what I wanted episodes to be, I always wanted to come back the next week because I just needed more. I needed more of that show. And I still feel like I need more of that show. I need different answers than what they gave us. And is that aggravating?
But there aren't any other, like you say that, but I can't think of any other answers to get.
Not unless you changed it. Yeah, not unless you
changed
the
storyline.
Like
the storyline's fine the way it is.
It is.
I think it's it built towards the middle, towards the end, to feel like there was going to be some explosion of story.
Yeah.
And
it
just kind of went the way you thought it would go, I guess.
So I think that's where it fails a little bit, is that they have a buildup in this show to where you think that it's going to be this big, huge reveal and everything's like the walls are torn down and now you see what it is for real. They did it, but it was to the point of just like, well, whatever. And I honestly believe, like I said before, if they would have given us like the episode 8 as like the third episode, it would have served better than what it did where it was at. And then you could have advanced the story so much more and given people what they wanted earlier in the series. and it still would have been the same thing, because in episode 8 you finally see like what Wanda did to get Vision back, what she was really thinking, how she really didn't just manhandle everybody in the building to just take him back. It was different than that. Like they brought her in, they invited her in. It wasn't the same thing. Like that story, I think, would have been good to have in the beginning. And then you would have been a little bit more sympathetic towards her and understand like, oh, wait, there's something way bigger here going on. And maybe it's not just her being pissed off at the world. It's like her losing everything in her life. And I just would have liked it better that way, because for a while leading up to basically that episode where it did let me down, but it did give me a lot of information, I just felt like, what's the goal here? What's the idea? Like, what are they trying to get at? I understand there's probably somebody else involved, but what is Wanda's goal here? You had no idea. Had I known it's just her being broken and like missing things, and the buildup of her losing her family and her brother and loving old TV shows, and then losing the only thing she had that wasn't even a real human being, but losing Vision twice in front of her, I would have been a little more like into it, I think.
Yeah. So, I mean, and not for nothing in the last episode, I mean, the stakes feel real. There's some emotional buy-in there.
Absolutely.
But, things like the kids, right? It like doesn't land, right? They try and make it like a huge emotional moment, and it should be.
I think it was with her and Vision.
Yeah, that is what I was just about to say. It didn't land with the kids. It should have.
Well, the reason it didn't land with the kids with me is because they were like
supersized them throughout the thing. Yeah.
Well, not only that, but in the very last episode, they go up there and they put them to bed, knowing that they're going to disappear, and they're just like, "All right, good night," and close the door, and then they leave, and then it's just about her and Vision, and I'm like, the whole time I kept thinking like, I don't know if those were my kids, but I feel like I'd stay with them.
Anyway, so the stuff with Vision does land at the end. There's a great line that Paul Bettany has that's something along the lines of, "We've said goodbye before."
Yeah.
And then she says, like, "So we'll say hello again."
Yes.
Something like that.
That was great.
It lands. It didn't choke me up, though. I mean, and it should have. If it had 3 more episodes, it might have.
It didn't necessarily choke me up, but I did sit there. I remember myself being like sitting forward in my seat.
The goal is to prove she's the hottest Olsen. I mean, she's proved that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
She's the only attractive Olsen.
Yeah, the other two, they just kind of look the same.
She's also an amazing actress.
She's very good.
Really good.
And she has a pretty great TikTok where she just gardens.
I'm not interested in that.
I am. I think it's great. I watched her prune some of her stuff today, like some of her plants.
No, so there was fine. There was enough in that last episode. It's just, I don't know. How do you shit on something for not being what you think it could have been?
And
when it's still very good.
Yeah. And how do you can't shit on something that is so different and so new.
Novel. Interesting.
Yes, it's brand new. Like that was incredible what they did in the beginning. I just
remember how we got fired up in like episode 5, 6, and 7, and we're on this show going like, "You gotta watch this show. You have to be watching this show."
Yes, I mean that says something alone right there. That they did something, and even though we talk about the first 2 episodes being not necessarily throwaway, but unnecessary in a way, they aren't unnecessary. Like looking back on it, they serve their purpose, and I'm glad that they're there. And I've never ever seen anything like that before in a modern day TV show, to do something so well. Like
part of it was
those old shows are so good,
and she is great at acting them.
And so is Vision. I mean, even being Paul Bettany being Vision in there plays the character perfectly.
And there's a huge like nostalgic bite for me, at least, because I watched a lot of those old shows.
So did I.
And to see
Bewitched, I watch all the time.
I mean, mainly watched so much of it. And I don't know, just there was something comforting about seeing that.
Yeah. I agree. There was. I was aggravated right off the bat to see it at first, because I thought it was kind of a gimmick at first, to where it was just going to be.
No, they bought in.
No, they went all in with it, because I didn't realize it was going to be 2 full episodes of that, and it wasn't something I necessarily wanted or needed. But like I said, now looking back, it was just really, really well done, and I like it. It just, I think they could have switched some things around to make it more interesting and not as like just intensely aggravating on not giving a story.
Yeah.
Because to be honest, the first 4 episodes, the 4th episode reveals a lot, but the first 4 episodes, every single time you're just like,
well,
yeah,
also like honestly,
we get it, but what is going on? Like, what are you doing? Why are you there?
I think one of the biggest letdowns for me was like the Agatha character.
I know.
It just didn't land. It's landing in pop culture.
In pop culture, it is. She did really. That 8th episode did really well.
But the character didn't land to me. I don't know. Something about it just missed. And maybe it was that last episode of like flying around CGIing each other.
Yeah.
That didn't get it for me. But, you know, I'm still, I liked it a lot. I'm all in. I hope they do a season 2. I'll definitely be on board for it. I like that they're pushing the narrative. So Marvel's always been very good about this, right? They push the narrative in different directions to suit their franchises. When they do Guardians of the Galaxy, they're doing a space drama. When they're doing Captain America and those things, they're doing an action movie. And when they do Doctor Strange, they're getting into the mystical. Mm-hmm. And this is doing a good job of navigating those waters. And I like that they're pushing the story that way. And then they're going to come back and push the story for Falcon and the Winter Soldier back in the other way. And I like the push-pull that we get in that universe. So,
well, yeah, and they give you those individual pieces and then are able to put them together at the end.
Dirk said, I'm not a Snarf level expert, but it just felt rushed. I mean, and that's absolutely the truth. And it didn't need to feel rushed because they spent, I mean, as much as I liked them for nostalgic reasons, they just devoted too much time in the first 4 episodes.
They did.
To that setup.
But even the beginning, the beginning of each episode was dedicated to that. The beginning of each episode was dedicated to that.
Even just if you're going to do 9 episodes, fine, make them an hour long.
They should have. They should have been longer, absolutely. And they dedicated the beginning of the episodes to that mirage of being a world that it's not. And we knew this. Like,
yeah, we know.
Every episode, it's like, I know this isn't real. Like, why are you playing this out again? Or like, why are you playing the TV show part? Stop it. Like, let's get down to the other like meat and potatoes of this stuff, because
if you want to do the 30, 40 minute
over.
episodes, that's fine. Make it 12 episode season.
Yeah, they needed to be at least
Give it
10.
time.
At least 10.
We should have been weeping when those kids died.
Yeah.
We should have lived with those characters a little more, you know?
Yeah.
And
the reveal with Pietro, like when they did the Pietro thing, I was like, nothing. It just was like, oh, you're wearing a necklace that's controling you. And you're a random like Nate. You're like Nate Hudson or whatever your name is. Like, and that was it. Like that's the end of her brother.
Nolan said, I heard some of their filming and production had to be altered because of COVID. Even that, I mean, I don't know. I mean, that's hard to say.
I feel like you could work through that to make a
Jimmy
show
said,
better.
Chris said, beer me. I did. Official beer of Snarf Talk.
Mm-hmm. Yingling.
Yingling and Heinz Beans, the official bean of Snarf Talk.
Of Snarf
Talk. So anyway, if you guys haven't watched it, I still recommend it highly for a Marvel fan. If you're not a fan, or this isn't the place to start.
Not at all.
No. So don't start here. In fact, you'll be worse off if you start. If you've seen a couple
you're
of the
just going to be
past,
loaded with questions and not know anything that's going on.
Well, and you're not going to want the answers because you don't have the background information. So
right.
I think most people that listen to this probably have seen a lot of the movies. It's fine. I like that it's setting up something. I guess I didn't feel like it set up quite as much as I wanted it to.
No, I don't feel like it did either. I know that Wanda's
set a tone though. It set a tone of quality that to me is interesting.
Yeah.
This quality-wise was a better piece of entertainment than a lot of Marvel movies.
Almost all of them.
So, I mean, I'm going to give it that on that, and I'm going to be positive about it.
So I know that Scarlet Witch or Wanda is going to be in.
Yeah, okay, so Craig said, wasn't a fan of the 8-minute credits with occasional one-shots. Agreed.
Yeah.
Every time those credits popped at the end, I just got pissed off. I'm like, seriously, guys?
Yeah.
Seriously.
That's what they're doing. That's what they did. But Wanda is going to be in the new Doctor Strange movie.
Psyched about that.
Multiverse of Madness.
I will say
she's
one
involved
thing.
with that.
I never
don't
gave
know
a
how
shit
much,
about that
but
character before this series. She was a side note on the Avengers movies.
Absolutely.
You didn't.
Well, until Endgame, really.
And frankly, even like her and Vision's relationship, I feel like that was a little bit of a.
I didn't give any crap about it until Endgame.
And I do now.
Well, until like Infinity War and Endgame, those are the only two movies that played up their relationship and the characters at all.
Right.
Like the only reason you had buy-in is because of the death scene of Vision.
That's the only reason.
And the fight scene that they had in, wherever they were hiding when Captain America and Black Widow came.
Yeah, that was a cool scene when Captain America got there.
Yes. And she used basically none of her powers, and Vision ran away, and they all just whatever ran away. But seeing Vision die twice and seeing like that effect on Wanda was good. And then in Endgame, seeing her fight Thanos was awesome. Like all of that stuff was great. Those are the only two things though that really gave that character any sort of like gravitas. Yes.
Gave her a Susan of Heinz beans.
Yeah.
Some weight.
Yeah, like a little Susan.
A little bit of watery spaghetti sauce.
Yeah, a little bit of like a splattering of spaghetti-o.
Yeah.
A
spaghetti-o.
Give me the little spaghetti-o on my beans.
So that's it for our review of WandaVision, unless you got anything else on that.
No, I would say that if you have seen the movies before, you can absolutely watch this series and enjoy it. Maybe we're being a little overly critical or overly harsh.
I think we're being overly critical for sure, and I'll tell you why. It's just that we care so much, Jerry.
That's because I just care so deeply.
We want it to be the best it can be.
I mean, I open my heart to these films and movies and TV shows, and I just want them, I want them to be better than me. We're like the overly
critical parents.
It's like watching your kids grow up, and you're like, I want you to do better than I did in my life, son or daughter. And I want to see this show, and I want you to be better than Endgame or
good luck.
Whatever else.